a human tactical officer guiding a Vroth war prince through a delicate technical procedure, both of them trusting each other completely. GHG 3 weeks had passed since the attack on the Morning Star. The ship had been repaired, the injured crew members had recovered, and the galaxy was still dealing with the aftermath of what became known as the Skrivik conspiracy. Captain Yuna. Kang stood in the main chamber of the Coalition Council building on the neutral world of Sanctuary Prime. The building was massive, built to hold representatives from 17 different species, each with their own size requirements and environmental needs. The humans had one of the smallest sections tucked between the tall Delthani and the crystalline Krell. Today, every seat was filled. Every species was watching, and Yuna was standing in the center of it all. The council speaker, an elderly Delthani with gray skin and wise eyes, called the session to order. We are here to address the events surrounding the disputed moon of Talek 7, the Skrivik conspiracy, and the actions of Captain Yuna Kang of Earth. Captain, you have been both praised and criticized for your methods. Some species call you a hero, others call you a manipulator. Today, you will have the opportunity to speak for yourself and for humanity. Yuna had prepared for this moment. She had written speeches, practiced arguments, and consulted with advisors. But standing here now in front of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, she decided to throw away all her prepared remarks. She would speak from her heart instead. Thank you, Speaker, Yuna began. Her voice was calm but carried clearly through the chamber. I won't pretend I'm a perfect diplomat. I'm not. I took risks that could have failed. I made choices that put my crew in danger. But I did these things because the traditional approach wasn't working. 12 negotiators before me tried to solve this crisis, and all of them failed. Not because they weren't skilled, but because they were trying to solve the wrong problem. She walked slowly as she spoke, making eye contact with different representatives. The dispute about the moon was never really about the moon. It was about respect, power, and fear. The Vroth felt disrespected by the Coalition. The Skrivik wanted to maintain their trade monopoly. The other 3 species who claimed the moon were more interested in not losing face than finding a solution. Everyone was focused on winning instead of understanding. A Krell representative interrupted. Their crystalline form chimed as they spoke. You speak of understanding, but you used psychological manipulation. You deceived the Vroth War Prince. No, Yuna said firmly. I never deceived him. I read him. There's a difference. I observed his behavior, analyzed his motivations, and offered him something he actually wanted instead of forcing him to accept something he didn't. That's not manipulation. That's communication. Semantics, the Krell replied coldly. Is it? Yuna asked. Let me ask you this. When you negotiate with another species, do you not try to understand what they want? Do you not observe their reactions and adjust your approach? Humans simply do this more systematically and more thoroughly than most species. We evolved on a planet where we had to understand each other to survive. We had no telepathy, no hive mind, no instinctive pack bonds. All we had was observation, interpretation, and communication. We became very, very good at it. The chamber was silent. Yuna continued. Some of you think humans are weak because we're small and soft. You're right, we are. But our weakness forced us to develop other strengths. We learned to make tools because we had no claws. We learned to cooperate because we couldn't survive alone. And we learned to understand minds because that was our only weapon against creatures stronger than us. She pulled up a holographic display showing data from the past 30 years. Since joining the Coalition, humans have resolved 14 major conflicts. Not through military force, not through economic pressure, but through understanding what each side truly needed and finding ways to satisfy those needs. Yes, we use psychology. Yes, we analyze behavior. But we do these things to prevent violence, not cause it. Ambassador Vorath had been arrested immediately after the attack. His replacement, a younger Skrivik named Tilkis, spoke up now. His voice was respectful but cautious. Captain Kang, no one denies that your methods worked. But many species are uncomfortable with how well they worked. You uncovered a conspiracy that had been hidden for months. You turned a hostile enemy into an ally in less than 2 days. You predicted the Skrivik attack and used it to prove your case. Some fear that such abilities could be used against them. Yuna appreciated his honesty. Your fear is understandable, she said. But consider this. If humans wanted to manipulate the Coalition, we would have done it quietly. We wouldn't have exposed ourselves by solving this crisis so publicly. The truth is, we want to be partners, not puppet masters. We want to contribute our skills to making the coalition stronger. And what happens when humanity's interests conflict with the coalition's? Asked a Skravik elder who sat beside Tilkus. Then we argue, we debate, and we compromise, Una replied. Just like every other member species.
Our analytical abilities don't make us perfect or always right.
They just give us a different perspective. One that I believe the coalition needs. War Prince Krethis had been sitting silently in the Vralth section. Now he stood, his massive form drawing everyone's attention. I will speak, he announced. The speaker nodded. The council recognizes War Prince Krethis of the Vralth Empire. I have fought in 17 campaigns, Krethis said. His deep voice resonated through the chamber. I have faced enemies with superior weapons, greater numbers, and home territory advantages. I know war. I know strategy, and I know when I have been bested not by force but by wisdom. He looked directly at Una. Captain Kang defeated me without firing a shot. She saw through my anger to the real issues beneath. She offered me not surrender but partnership. And when I tested her with violence, she responded with courage and intelligence. The Vralth have never allied with a species weaker than ourselves. We always believed strength was the only currency that mattered. Captain Kang proved us wrong. Krethis turned to address the full council. The humans are not warriors by nature, but they are survivors. They are thinkers. They are problem solvers. The Vralth Empire formally supports the creation of a human strategic analysis division within the coalition. We believe human intelligence analysis combined with Vralth military strength can prevent conflicts before they begin. Is this not better than winning wars after millions have died? Several council members nodded. Others looked uncertain. The debate continued for another hour, with species arguing for and against expanded human roles in coalition affairs. Finally, the speaker called for a vote. All in favor of establishing the Human Strategic Analysis Division, with Captain Una Kang as director, indicate now. The votes came in one by one. It wasn't unanimous, but it was overwhelming. 14 species voted yes, only 3 abstained. None voted against. The speaker announced the result. The motion passes. Humanity will take on expanded diplomatic and analytical responsibilities within the coalition. This session is concluded. The chamber erupted in conversations as representatives began discussing the implications. Una stood still for a moment, letting it sink in. They had done it. Humanity had proven its worth. Jiho Park found her in the crowd. He looked proud and relieved. You did it, Una. You actually did it. We did it, Una corrected. I couldn't have exposed the conspiracy without your hacking skills. I couldn't have survived the attack without Hana's leadership and Minho's quick thinking. This was always a team effort. Commander Hana Lee joined them, along with Lieutenant Minho Choi. The 4 of them stood together, representatives of a species that had been underestimated for too long. What happens now? Minho asked. Do we just go back to the Morning Star and continue diplomatic missions? No, Una said. Now we build something new. The Human Strategic Analysis Division will need analysts, negotiators, technical specialists, and yes, some combat-trained personnel. We'll be recruiting from Earth and from humans already serving in coalition space. This is going to be bigger than any of us imagined. And the Vralth? Jiho asked. What's our relationship with them going to be like? As if summoned by the question, Krethis approached. His commanders followed at a respectful distance. Captain Kang, he said formally, the Vralth Council has authorized me to propose a formal military and intelligence alliance between our species. We will share resources, training, and strategic planning. Your intelligence, our strength. Together we will make the coalition safer. Una extended her hand in the human gesture of agreement. Krethis looked at it for a moment, then carefully took her much smaller hand in his massive clawed one. The handshake was gentle but firm. Together, Una agreed. The image of a small human woman shaking hands with a towering Vralth war prince was captured by recording devices throughout the chamber. It would become one of the most famous images in coalition history. The moment when 2 unlikely allies changed the balance of power in the galaxy. Later that evening, back aboard the Morning Star, the crew gathered in the common room. They were sharing a meal, a mixture of human and Vralth food that was surprisingly compatible. The Vralth delegation had stayed aboard to finalize alliance details, and the 2 species were learning tea. Una's heart dropped when she heard Hana's voice through the communicator. The Morning Star was under attack. Her ship, her crew. She had suspected the Skravik might have backup plans, but she had hoped to be wrong. How many infiltrators? Una asked, forcing her voice to stay calm even though fear was rising in her chest. At least 6, Hana replied. The sound of weapons fire echoed in the background. They were hiding in the cargo bay, disguised as maintenance equipment. When Vorath cut his transmission, they activated. Una, these aren't soldiers. They're Skravik hunters. Elite killers, Skravik hunters. Una felt cold despite the heat of the Vroth war chamber. Skravik were insect-like creatures, fast and vicious. Their hunters were worse. They could spit acid, climb walls, and had natural armor that could deflect most small arms fire. 6 of them on a diplomatic ship with minimal weapons would be a massacre. Seal all sections, Una ordered. Don't try to fight them head-on. Use the environmental controls. Humans are adaptable. They're not. Understood, Hana said. But Una, 3 of them are heading for the bridge. I can't seal that section without trapping my own crew inside with them. Behind Una, Krethus was already moving. War Prince, one of his commanders said. We should stay out of this. It's a coalition internal matter. But Krethus was staring at Una. She met his eyes. This was the moment. Everything depended on what happened next. The humans exposed the Skravik conspiracy, Krethus said to his commanders. Now the Skravik try to kill them. This is not coincidence. This is proof of guilt. He turned to his communications officer. Deploy boarding team to the Morning Star. Full combat gear. The humans fight alongside us today. Sir, is that wise? Another commander asked. We barely know these humans. I know enough, Krethus said. They came here with truth instead of lies. They offered partnership instead of threats. And now they're under attack for helping us. The Vralth do not abandon allies. Una felt something unexpected. Relief. Trust. The beginning of something that might actually work. Thank you, War Prince, she said. Thank me by surviving, Krethus replied. He grabbed a plasma rifle from the wall. I'm coming with the boarding team. If these Skravik want to fight, they chose the wrong ship to attack. Aboard the Morning Star, Lieutenant Minho Choi was having the worst day of his life. He was a weapons officer, trained for ship-to-ship combat and tactical analysis. He was not trained for fighting acid-spitting aliens in close quarters with a pistol that barely scratched their armor. 3 of his security team were already down. Not dead, thankfully. The Skravik had hit them with paralytic stingers. They were alive but couldn't move. Minho and 2 other guards were trapped in a corridor near the bridge, trying to hold off 2 Skravik hunters that were advancing steadily. Why aren't our weapons working? One of the guards shouted. She fired her plasma pistol again. The shot hit a Skravik in the chest but just scorched its natural armor. Their exoskeletons are too thick, Minho replied. He was thinking frantically. What had he learned in training? What could he use? Don't aim for the body. Aim for the joints. Between the armor plates. He demonstrated by shooting at a Skravik's knee joint. The creature screeched and stumbled. Not dead but hurt. That was progress. But the Skravik adapted quickly. They started moving differently, keeping their joints protected. One of them spat a stream of acid. The other guard barely dodged it. The acid hit the wall and started eating through the metal. We can't hold here, the guard said. We need to fall back. If we fall back, they reach the bridge, Minho said. Commander Lee is up there, Jiho, the helm crew. We have to hold, but holding wasn't working. The Skravik were pushing forward. Minho was running out of options and ammunition. Then Jiho's voice came through his earpiece. Minho, can you get to the environmental control panel? It should be on the wall to your left, about 5 meters back. Minho glanced behind him. Yes, there it was. A control panel behind a clear protective cover. I see it. What do you want me to do? Humans evolved in Earth's environment, Jiho said. His voice was quick and urgent. The Skravik evolved on a planet with very different atmospheric conditions. They're adapted to high nitrogen levels and low oxygen. If you can flood that corridor with pure oxygen, it will mess up their breathing. Make them sluggish. Will it kill them? Minho asked. No, but it will slow them down enough for you to get better shots. Trust me. Minho made a decision. Cover me, he shouted to his 2 guards. Then he ran for the control panel. The Skravik saw him move. One of them spat acid. It missed by inches. Minho reached the panel and smashed the protective cover with his pistol grip. The controls were labeled in human standard. He found the atmospheric mix controls and cranked the oxygen to maximum. Nothing happened for a few seconds. Then he heard the Skrevik start making strange sounds, clicking and wheezing. They were moving slower, their coordination was off. Now, Minho shouted. Joint shots! His guards opened fire. This time their aim was true. They hit knees, elbows, the weak points in the neck. The Skrevik went down, not dead but disabled. One of them was still trying to crawl forward, but Minho hit it with a stun charge at point-blank range. Section secure, Minho reported, breathing hard. 2 hostiles down. Good work, Jiho replied. But we have bigger problems. 4 more Skrevik just breached the engine room. They're trying to sabotage the reactor. On the bridge, Commander Hana Lee was fighting her own battle. One Skrevik hunter had made it past all the defensive sections and was now in the bridge itself. The crew was unarmed. They were pilots and communications officers, not soldiers. Hana had a single plasma pistol and a lot of experience from her combat days. But experience only went so far when your opponent was built like a tank. The Skrevik circled her slowly. It was smart, this one. It had seen how humans fought. It was being cautious, waiting for an opening. Hana's mind raced. The bridge was full of equipment. Computers, control stations, the captain's chair. Everything was a potential weapon if she used it right. Captain Lee, Yuna's voice came through the main communication system. I'm watching the bridge feeds. Listen to me carefully. That Skrevik is a hunter-killer class. They're trained to fight warriors. But they always follow the same attack pattern. What pattern? Hana asked. She was moving slowly, keeping a console between her and the Skrevik. They test with acid first, then rush while you're dodging, Yuna explained. When they rush, they drop their guard on their left side for exactly 1 second. It's a blind spot in their compound vision. That's your window. 1 second isn't much, Hana said. It's enough if you know it's coming, Yuna replied. I believe in you, Commander. The Skrevik spat acid. Hana dove right, exactly as predicted. The acid hit the console she had been hiding behind. And then the Skrevik rushed. Hana didn't run. She rolled left, came up on one knee, and fired 3 shots into the Skrevik's left side. The creature's natural armor was weaker there. The shots penetrated deep into its vital organs. The Skrevik collapsed with a screech. Hana stood up slowly, her hands shaking. Bridge secure, she reported. Yuna, how did you know about that blind spot? I read a xenobiology report on Skrevik physiology 3 years ago, Yuna said. I remember everything I read. It's a human thing. Remind me never to play memory games with you, Hana said. She allowed herself a small smile. The docking clamps engaged with a heavy sound. The Vralth boarding team had arrived. Krethis led 12 heavily armed warriors onto the Morning Star. They moved through the corridors like a coordinated machine, clearing sections one by one. Jiho guided them through the ship's communication system. Engine room is 2 sections forward. 4 hostiles are inside, heavily armed. They've already damaged the reactor cooling system. We will handle it, Krethis said. His warriors formed up. Then the War Prince paused and activated his communicator. Human Tactical Officer, what is the optimal approach? Jiho was surprised by the question. Vralth didn't usually ask humans for tactical advice. The engine room has 2 entrances. If you breach both at once, you can catch them in crossfire. But the reactor is delicate. 1 stray shot could cause a meltdown. Then we use precision weapons, Krethis said. He switched his rifle to single-shot mode. Vralth warriors are trained in accuracy. We will not miss. The assault was quick and brutal. The Vralth breached both doors simultaneously. The Skrevik inside tried to fight back, but they were outmatched. Vralth warriors were bigger, stronger, and better armed. Within 30 seconds, all 4 hostiles were down. But 1 Skrevik had activated a bomb attached to the reactor. A timer was counting down. 45 seconds, everyone out. One of the Vralth commanders shouted. We can't defuse it in time. But Krethis didn't move. Human Technical Officer, can this be stopped? Maybe, Jiho said. He was already analyzing the bomb through remote sensors. It's a simple electromagnetic trigger. If I can overload it with a feedback pulse, it might disable the detonator. But I need direct access to the engine room controls. I'm at the controls, Krethis said. He was staring at a complex panel covered in Skrevik symbols. I'm sending you instructions now, Jiho said. His fingers flew across his console. Follow exactly what I say. We have 30 seconds. What happened next would be talked about for years in both human and Vralth circles. War Prince, I'm intelligent enough not to try to outsmart you. I'm trying to offer you something better than victory. I'm offering back aboard the Morning Star. Yuna sat in the briefing room with her entire senior staff. Her hands were finally steady again, But her mind was racing. She had 14 hours before the next meeting with Krethis, and she needed to use every minute. "Explain the Skrevik theory," Commander Hana Lee said. She poured coffee for everyone. It was real Earth coffee, expensive and precious this far from home, but they all needed it. Yuna pulled up star charts on the holographic display. "Look at this," she said, highlighting several trade routes in red. "These are the main Skrevik commercial corridors. They connect 17 colonies and generate billions in trade revenue every year." "I see them," Jiho said. "What's the problem?" "Now look at this." Yuna changed the display. A small moon appeared, glowing green. "This is the disputed moon. Notice anything?" Lieutenant Minho Choi leaned forward. "It's right in the middle of the Skrevik routes." "Exactly," Yuna said. "But the Skrevik never claimed it. Why? They had just as much right to it as the other 3 species who are arguing about it." "Maybe they didn't want it," Hana suggested. "Or maybe they wanted something else," Yuna replied. She pulled up more data. 6 months ago, when the Vralth took the moon by force, what happened to Skrevik trade? Jiho worked his console quickly. Numbers and graphs filled the air between them. His eyes went wide. Trade increased by 37%. "The Skrevik are making more money now than they did before the crisis started." "How is that possible?" Minho asked. "Because 3 other species stopped using those routes," Yuna explained. "They diverted to avoid Vralth military vessels. Those alternate routes take longer and cost more, so smaller traders started paying the Skrevik for direct escort services through the area. The Skrevik are charging premium rates and making enormous profits." Hana set down her coffee cup carefully. "You think the Skrevik wanted this conflict to happen?" "I think they helped make it happen," Yuna said. She pulled up another document. "Look at these supply line incidents. Over the past year, 17 Vralth supply ships were sabotaged. Small attacks. Nothing that screamed war, but enough to make the Vralth angry and paranoid. The Coalition blamed pirates, but no one ever found these pirates." "You think it was the Skrevik?" Jiho said slowly. "I think someone wanted the Vralth to feel threatened and disrespected," Yuna said. "Someone who would benefit from the Vralth being isolated from the Coalition, someone who could profit from the chaos." Minho looked at the data with growing anger. "So the Skrevik created this entire crisis just to make money?" "Not just money," Yuna corrected. "Power. If the Vralth get expelled from the Coalition, the Skrevik become the primary military suppliers in 3 sectors. They would have monopoly control." "Can you prove this?" Hana asked. "Because if you accuse a Coalition member species of conspiracy without evidence, it could start a war." "That's why I need Jiho," Yuna said. She turned to her tactical officer. "I need you to do what humans do best. I need you to find the digital footprints, communications, financial transfers, ship movements, anything that connects Skrevik vessels to those sabotage locations." Jiho cracked his knuckles. "Human cyber analysis against Skrevik security systems. This is going to be fun. How much time do I have?" 12 hours, Yuna said. "That's not much time." "It's what we have," Yuna replied. "Hana, I need you to prepare the Morning Star for possible trouble. If the Skrevik realize we're investigating them, they might try something aggressive." "Like what?" Hana asked. "I don't know yet," Yuna admitted. "But we need to be ready for anything. Minho, I want every security protocol active. Check our systems for any sign of infiltration or tampering." "You think they might have agents on our ship?" Minho looked shocked. "I think they've had 6 months to prepare," Yuna said. "And we've been in Coalition space the whole time. If I were them, I would have put insurance policies in place." The crew dispersed to their tasks. Yuna stayed in the briefing room, staring at the data. She was building a case piece by piece, but cases required evidence and evidence required time. Jiho returned 4 hours later. He looked tired but excited. "Found something. 3 Skrevik civilian vessels were within sensor range of 5 different sabotage sites. They were listed as merchant ships, but their power signatures were way too high for cargo haulers. Military vessels pretending to be civilians," Yuna said. "That's good, but not enough. We need communications." "Working on it," Jiho said. The Skrevik encrypt everything with quantum keys. It's almost impossible to break. Almost, Una repeated. Which means there's a way. There's always a way, Jiho agreed. But I need more processing power. The Morningstar's computers aren't built for this level of hacking. Una thought for a moment. Then she made a decision that might cost her everything. Contact the Vralth. Ask if we can link to their computer systems. Jiho stared at her. You want to connect our ship to theirs? Una, that's insane. They could copy all our data. They could plant viruses. They could compromise our entire system. Or they could help us find the truth, Una said. If I'm right about Krithis, he'll see this as a gesture of trust. And if I'm wrong, we're in trouble anyway. You're betting everything on your ability to read that Vralth prince, Jiho said. I've been betting on that since we arrived, Una replied. 30 minutes later, Jiho had his answer. The Vralth agreed. They're sending over connection protocols now. Una, Krethis himself authorized this. He sent a message. Let us see what human intelligence can discover. Good, Una said. That means he suspects something too. Start the analysis. For the next 6 hours, Jiho worked with Vralth computer specialists. It was strange watching humans and Vralth cooperate. The species had almost gone to war, and now their technical teams were sharing data like old colleagues. The breakthrough came 2 hours before the next scheduled meeting. Got it, Jiho shouted. He pulled up a communication intercept on the main display. This is a Skrevik military frequency from 7 months ago. It's heavily encrypted, but with the Vralth processing power, we cracked it. Una read the translated text. It was a conversation between a Skrevik admiral and a field operative. The words were careful, coded, but the meaning was clear. They had sabotaged Vralth supply ships. They had planted evidence to make it look like pirates or rival species. And they had done it specifically to anger the Vralth into aggressive action. Why would they document this, Minho asked. He had joined them in the briefing room. Arrogance, Una said. They never thought anyone would break their encryption, and they needed records for their own political purposes. This proves the Skrevik command authorized these attacks. This is enough to bring to the Coalition Council, Hana said. This is proof of conspiracy. Not yet, Una said. First, I show it to Krethis. He deserves to know that his instincts were right. Someone was provoking the Vralth, and that someone needs to face justice. She prepared a secure data package with all the evidence. Then she composed a message to the War Prince requesting an immediate meeting. The response came back within minutes. Come now, bring your proof. Una gathered her materials and headed for the airlock. This time, she knew exactly what she was walking into. Not a test, but a revelation. She was about to show the Vralth that humans could be trusted, that they could uncover truth even when others tried to hide it. But she was also about to make an enemy. The Skrevik had powerful allies in the coalition. When she exposed their conspiracy, they would retaliate. The question was how and when. As Una walked through the corridors of the Vralth warship for the second time, she felt different than before. Less nervous, more certain. She had done the work. She had found the truth. Now she just had to present it in a way that would turn suspicion into alliance. The war chamber doors opened. Krithis was there with his commanders. But this time there were also holographic observers from the Coalition Council. Una recognized Ambassador Vorath, the Skrevik representative. His insect-like features were hard to read, but she saw his antennae twitch when he noticed her. Captain Kang, Krethis said formally. You requested this emergency session. The council is watching. Make your case. Una stepped into the center of the chamber. She activated her datapad and projected the evidence into the air for everyone to see. Communications, ship movements, financial transfers. Everything laid out in perfect detail. 6 months ago, this conflict began with a series of attacks on Vralth supply vessels, Una said. Her voice carried clearly through the chamber. The coalition blamed pirates. The Vralth suspected conspiracy but had no proof. Today, with the help of Vralth computer specialists, human intelligence analysis has uncovered the truth. She played the intercepted communication. The Skrivic voices were translated into Coalition Standard Language. Every word was damning. The attacks were not random, Una continued. They were planned and executed by Skrivic military operatives under direct orders from their command structure. The goal was to provoke the Vralth into aggressive action, creating a crisis that the Skrivic could exploit for financial and political gain. In the holographic display, Ambassador Vorath's image flickered. His mandibles clicked rapidly. "This is absurd," Vorath protested. "These communications could be fabricated. Humans are known for they." The war chamber was massive. Una had expected that. What she hadn't expected was how hot it would be. The Vralth liked their ships warm, almost 40 degrees. Sweat formed on her skin immediately, but she kept her face calm. War Prince Krethis sat on a raised platform at the far end of the room. He was enormous, at least 3 meters tall even while sitting. His scales were dark green with traces of black along his spine. Yellow eyes watched her approach with something between amusement and contempt. Around the chamber stood 12 other Vralth commanders. All of them were armed. All of them were staring at the small human woman who had just walked into their territory. Una's 2 security guards stayed near the entrance. They were human soldiers, but they looked like children next to the Vralth warriors. She had ordered them not to speak unless absolutely necessary. "So," Krethis said. His voice was deep and resonated through the chamber. "The Coalition sends a human. How desperate they must be." Some of the other Vralth made sounds that might have been laughter. It sounded like rocks grinding together. Una walked forward until she was 10 meters from the War Prince. She did not bow. She did not show fear. She simply stood straight and met his eyes. "War Prince Krethis," she said clearly. "I am Captain Una Kang, representing the Galactic Coalition. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting." "I agreed to nothing," Krethis replied. "I allowed you to enter. There is a difference. You have 1 solar cycle to convince me to leave the moon. If you fail, the prisoners die. Do you understand?" "I understand," Una said. Her voice was steady. "Before I begin my proposal, may I ask a question?" Krethis tilted his large head. "Speak. How many negotiators have you met in the past 6 months?" 12, Krethis said. "All of them wasted my time with words. The Delthani sent their best speaker. I fell asleep during his speech. The Krell sent a warrior to threaten me. I laughed at him. The others were no better. And yet you keep accepting meetings," Una observed. "Why?" The chamber went silent. Several Vralth shifted uncomfortably. No one had asked Krethis that question before. The War Prince leaned forward. His claws tapped against the metal armrest of his seat. "Perhaps I enjoy watching lesser species beg. Perhaps I am giving the Coalition every chance to avoid war. Or perhaps I am waiting for someone who isn't a fool." "Which one is true?" Una asked. Krethis' eyes narrowed. "You are bold for someone so small. Boldness without strength is just stupidity." "Is it?" Una took a step closer. "I think boldness without strength is called courage. But I didn't come here to debate philosophy." "Then why did you come?" "To offer you something better than the moon," Una said. Krethis made that grinding laugh sound again. "Better than a moon rich in metals and crystals? What could humans possibly offer that would interest the Vralth Empire?" Una was about to answer when Krethis suddenly stood up. The movement was fast, aggressive. He pulled a plasma pistol from his belt and in one smooth motion, fired it past Una's head. The shot was so close that Una felt the heat on her right ear. Her hair moved from the energy discharge. The plasma bolt struck the wall behind her and left a glowing hole in the metal. The 2 human guards reached for their weapons, but Una raised her hand sharply. They froze. Every Vralth in the chamber was watching her. Waiting. This was a test. Most species would have panicked, run, or attacked back. That's what Krethis wanted. An excuse to call the meeting failed. Una didn't run. She didn't even flinch hard enough for most to notice. Instead, she slowly turned her head to look at the burn mark on the wall. She studied it for a long moment. Then she turned back to Krethis and tilted her head slightly to one side. A small smile appeared on her face. "You missed," she said calmly. "By intelligence." The chamber went completely silent. Even the background hum of the ship's system seemed to pause. Every Vralth was staring at her with wide eyes. One of the commanders started to laugh nervously. He thought Una was insulting Krethis' aim. But then she continued speaking and the laughter died. You missed because you are intelligent enough to know that killing a coalition negotiator would unite 16 species against you, Yuna said. Her voice was calm and clear. Your anger is performance. Your restraint is calculation. That tells me something important, War Prince. It tells me you don't actually want war. You want respect. And that is something we can work with. Krethis stared at her. His weapon was still in his hand. The barrel was still glowing hot from the shot. For several long seconds he said nothing. Then slowly he lowered the pistol. You did not run, he said quietly. Why would I run from something you deliberately missed? Yuna replied. That would be insulting to both of us. You clearly calculated that shot perfectly. Running would suggest I thought you couldn't control your own weapon. Most species would have seen it as an attack, Krethis said. Most species don't study psychology, Yuna answered. But humans do. We've spent our entire evolution learning to read intention through behavior. That shot told me you're angry about something deeper than this moon. It told me you feel disrespected by the coalition. And it told me you're smart enough to want a solution that doesn't end in war. Another commander, this one with darker scales and several scars, spoke up. The human is clever with words. But words are wind. What can you actually offer us? Yuna turned to face him. I can offer you something the coalition has never offered before. Recognition. A seat at the strategic planning table. And access to human analytical services. What are analytical services? The scarred commander asked. Information, Yuna said. Humans are very, very good at gathering and understanding information. In the 30 years since we joined the coalition, we have resolved 14 major conflicts that other species declared impossible to solve. We did this not through weapons or threats, but through understanding what each side truly wanted. She pulled out her datapad and projected a hologram into the center of the chamber. It showed statistics, battle reports, and negotiation successes. All of them involved human mediators. We are small, Yuna continued. We are weak compared to most species. But we are extremely good at reading patterns, predicting behavior, and understanding motivation. The galaxy sees this as a small talent, but in truth it is the most powerful weapon we have. Krethis sat back down slowly. He was thinking now. Yuna could see it in the way his eyes moved, the way his claws tapped rhythmically. You think you can predict what I want? He asked. I know what you want, Yuna said confidently. You want the coalition to stop treating the Vroth like barbarians. You want your military achievements recognized not as brutality, but as strength. You want other species to ask for your help instead of fearing your arrival. And you want the resources from that moon, but mostly you want the respect that comes with holding it. The War Prince was silent for a long moment. Then he leaned forward again. And if I have all these wants, how can you satisfy them? By restructuring the agreement, Yuna said. She pulled up a new document on her datapad. The coalition has been trying to make you leave the moon completely. That was never going to work. So instead, I propose a three-way resource split with Vroth Administrative Authority. You get the resources. You get the leadership position. And the coalition gets to save face by calling it a diplomatic victory instead of a defeat. That still leaves the question of respect, Krethis said. That's the second part, Yuna replied. I propose a new coalition position, Strategic Security Advisor. The Vroth would fill this role. Your commanders would work with coalition forces to improve defense strategies across all territories. This gives you influence, recognition, and proof that the coalition values Vroth expertise. The scarred commander spoke again. And what does the coalition gain from this arrangement? Yuna smiled. They gain Vroth protection and human intelligence. The two newest species working together. It would change the entire balance of power in the galaxy. She let that sink in for a moment. Then she took one more step closer to Krethis. War Prince, you could take that moon and hold it by force. But eventually the coalition would wear you down through sanctions, blockades, and political isolation. You would win the battle but lose the war. Or you could accept this proposal, gain everything you actually want, and establish the Vroth as indispensable members of the coalition. Your choice. Krethis stared at her for a very long time. Yuna stared back. She showed no fear, no doubt. Just calm certainty. Finally, the War Prince spoke. You are either very brave or very foolish. Captain Yuna Kang. I prefer to think I'm very prepared, Yuna replied. I will consider your proposal, Krethis said. But I have questions. Many questions. We will meet again tomorrow. It wasn't an agreement, but it wasn't a rejection either. Yuna had bought herself time. And time was what she needed. She bowed slightly, a sign of respect but not submission. Then she turned and walked back toward her guards. Every step was measured and calm. Behind her, she could hear the Vralth commanders beginning to argue among themselves. Good. Arguments meant they were actually considering it. As Yuna reached the door, Krethis called out one more time. Human, you said I missed by intelligence. Does that mean you think you are intelligent enough to outsmart the Vralth Empire? Yuna looked back over her shoulder. Her smile was small but genuine. The stars looked cold through the viewport. Captain Yuna Kang pressed her hand against the glass and felt nothing. Space was always like that, beautiful and empty at the same time. Behind her, Jiho Park cleared his throat. He was her tactical officer and had been her friend since they were children in Busan. Now they were both far from Earth, floating in a diplomatic ship between alien worlds. You don't have to do this, Jiho said quietly. His voice carried worry. They could send someone else. Someone the Vralth might actually respect. Yuna turned and gave him a small smile. She was 32 years old but felt older some days. Her dark hair was pulled back tight. Her uniform was perfectly clean. She needed to look professional. The galaxy already thought humans were children playing at politics. The coalition already sent 12 diplomats, Yuna replied. The Vralth laughed at all of them. Some species sent their best warriors. Others sent their oldest and wisest leaders. Nothing worked, so they sent us, Jiho said. He didn't sound happy about it. The newest species. The weakest one. What makes them think we can do better? Yuna walked to the briefing table. Maps and data filled the holographic display above it. The disputed moon glowed in the center. 3 different alien species claimed it. The Vralth Empire had simply taken it by force 6 months ago. Since then, the tension had grown worse every day. They don't think we can do better, Yuna said. She studied the data with careful eyes. They think we'll fail just like everyone else. But at least they can say they tried everything, even the humans. Commander Hana Lee entered the room. She was the captain of the Morning Star, their diplomatic vessel. Hana was 45 and had seen real combat before joining the diplomatic corps. She had scars on her hands that she never talked about. We're approaching the Vralth command ship, Hana announced. It's called the Talon of Dominance. Subtle, right? How big? Jiho asked. 5 times our size, Hana said. And that's just what we can see. Sensors are picking up at least 30 Vralth warships in the area. They're not trying to hide them. Yuna nodded slowly. This was expected. The Vralth were warriors. They respected strength and size. The Morning Star was neither strong nor large. It was a diplomatic ship built for comfort and communication, not fighting. Any response to our docking request? Yuna asked. They're letting us board, Hana replied. But Yuna, the message they sent back was insulting. They called you the soft-skinned speaker and said you have 1 solar cycle to present your proposal. 1 day, Jiho translated. That's not enough time. It's enough, Yuna said. She was already thinking 3 steps ahead. The Vralth wanted to intimidate them. That was useful information. Fear was a tool and tools could be turned around. There's more, Hana added. She looked uncomfortable. They say if we don't succeed, they'll execute the coalition prisoners they're holding. 23 people from different species. They've been hostages for 4 months now. The room went quiet. Lieutenant Minho Choi, their young weapons officer, spoke from the doorway. He was only 25 and still eager to prove himself. That's a war crime, Minho said. His hands were clenched into fists. The coalition should send warships, not negotiators. The coalition tried that, Yuna said calmly. The Vralth have more ships and better weapons. A war would cost millions of lives. That's why I'm here. But what can you do? Minho asked. He didn't mean it as an insult. He genuinely wanted to know. The Vralth are 3 meters tall. They have armored scales, natural claws. They've been conquering worlds for thousands of years. We've been in space for less than a century. Yuna looked at each of her crew members. Jiho, who worried but always had her back. Hana, who had survived worse than this. Minho, who was brave but inexperienced. They were all looking at her for answers. That's exactly why I might succeed, Yuna said. Every other species tried to match Vralth strength. They sent warriors to face warriors. But humans don't win fights by being stronger. We never did. Then how do we win? Minho asked. By being smarter, Yuna replied. By understanding what our enemies want before they do. By reading faces and voices and tiny movements that other species don't even notice. The Vralth think we're weak. That's perfect. Let them think it. Jiho understood first. He had seen Yuna work before. You're going to use their confidence against them. Something like that, Yuna said. She pulled up more data on the Vralth war prince named Krithis. He was the one she would face. The files showed a large reptilian figure covered in dark green scales. His eyes were yellow and cold. He had led 17 successful military campaigns, but Yuna wasn't looking at his victories. She was looking at the 3 campaigns where he had chosen negotiation over battle. She was reading the reports of how he spoke, how he moved, what made him angry and what made him pause. He's not just a warrior, Yuna said quietly. He's a politician too. That means he thinks, and if he thinks, I can predict him. The ship shuddered slightly as it approached the Vralth vessel. Through the viewport, the talon of dominance grew larger and larger. It was dark metal and sharp angles. It looked like a weapon because it was. Docking in 10 minutes, Hannah announced. Yuna, are you sure about this? I can still send armed security with you. No, Yuna said firmly. I go with minimal escort. Just me and 2 guards. If I bring soldiers, the Vralth will see it as a challenge. I need them to see me as harmless. You're walking into a warship filled with warriors who could kill you with one hand, Jiho said. And you want to look harmless? I want to look smart, Yuna corrected. There's a difference. She gathered her datapad in a small case containing the official coalition proposal. It was meaningless, really. The words on those documents wouldn't convince anyone. But she needed them for appearance. What would really matter was everything else. Her tone of voice, her body language, the exact moment she chose to speak or stay silent, the way she would read every tiny signal from Krethis and his commanders. Humans had spent millions of years evolving to read each other, to detect lies, to understand emotions from micro-expressions that lasted less than a second. Other species had evolved claws and armor and strength. Humans had evolved to understand minds. That was their weapon, and Yuna was very good at using it. The docking clamps engaged with a heavy thud. The airlock light turned green. On the other side of that door was the most dangerous negotiation of her life. Yuna took one deep breath, then walked forward. Jiho and Hana watched her go, unable to follow. Minho saluted from his station. The door opened, and Yuna stepped into the Vralth warship. The air smelled different, hotter. The walls were dark, and the lights were dim. She could hear heavy footsteps approaching. This was it. Time to show the galaxy what humans could really do. She smiled slightly. They had no idea what was coming.